Hello, everybody. Once again, I'm Liam Krabs Jr., aka Zorvalchan Less Than Guru. Right here, we have the more than annoying Mars, the video cat, who has just been crazy with me trying to put together videos today. He always goes straight for the microphone and moves it and whatever. But okay, update. I haven't done an update in a long time. As many or most or all of you know, I am the line developer for Torg Eternity. So that takes most of my free time. So the time that I used to spend here on this channel, the majority of it now gets spent doing Torg Eternity or doing the Torg Eternity Delphi Council debriefings. Go check that out on Ulysses International channel. If you're here for Torg Eternity, that's probably going to be the better place for official stuff, as well as opinions of not just myself, but other creators for Torg Eternity. So having said that, I'm going to go through my normal update, go through the campaigns, various campaigns I'm doing, my thoughts and opinions on certain things. So first, let's hit Palladium. Palladium, I want to say we're on like the 52nd or 53rd session, which is really cool. My sessions are usually around 3 hours. I have players have multiple characters, and a lot of times they get to choose which character. They'll hear the hook for an adventure, or I'll set up a hook beforehand. They decide which character they're going to bring in on that hook, and then we play. A lot of the hooks take a session, but some of them take a few sessions, especially if the party wants to keep getting deeper and deeper, and then those characters are kind of held up, or they're tabbed into that hook. So if other hooks drops, then they have to use other characters, but everybody understands it, everybody knows, goes real well. What I'm planning to do in Palladium, because even though I have nothing official to do with Palladium, I did an unofficial Rifter article on a different Palladium system beyond the Supernaturals, second edition. For Palladium first edition, it's one of my favorite games. It's an old school game that I think had more that resonated with me than the D&D at the time, which was first AD&D or BECME at that time. And I just fell in love with role-playing through the Palladium Fantasy First Edition role-playing game. So, having done a very heavily house-ruled, home-brewed system, and I have a whole playlist of many hours discussing the reasons why I changed things, why I kept things the same, etc. Those are really long, and it was pointed out, and I know my videos tend to ramble, I tend to get off topic, etc. But I realized that it would be very beneficial to those who like or are interested in Palladium First Edition, which is a more old school feel than the Rifts-ish second edition. And you might have some of the same hangups and problems and stuff that I did, but you still might want to play it. I have a review here that is Palladium First Edition, and I still stick by that. Palladium First Edition can be an excellent core to your game if you as a game master are willing to put some time and energy into making rulings and house ruling the system. As it is, there's a lot of contradictory and conflicting rules and things that just, they'll state rule 1, they'll state rule 2, and they don't say how those rules interact. That can leave people forcing you to make house rules. So if I can bring some, hey, this is what I've done in this situation, and you can either take it or modify it or decide that you come up with something else completely on your own that's different, but you use the Palladium First Edition, it can be beneficial. So I would like to replace that old playlist with a new playlist where they're a little shorter and it's kind of one topic per episode, instead of me trying to go through my chapter 1 and my chapter 2, etc. in my rewrite. So look for that. And it might be one where I drop 3 or 4 episodes at one time, and then it'll be a while, and then I drop 3 or 4 more, or one here and there, basically because of my time constraint. So I have a couple of episodes recorded that I'll probably post very soon after this one. So that's what's going on with Palladium. Still loving the game, still loving how things are happening, and my players get involved and stuff. Really cool old school feel in that. So my second game, so Palladium takes place every other Sunday, and then in the alternate Sundays we have been doing Blades in the Dark, which is a game that I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it, but I came to really enjoy the game. But the game master, and I would have to say sort of my uh, not as a player, but in my character, things my character has done kind of gave a good resolution, and the game master also was wanting to do a new system. So we did last Sunday, um, and I'll post that soon within today or tomorrow. The last session that we had for Blades in the Dark. So the game ended. My thoughts of how it ended. It ended very epically. It ended with character deaths. It ended with character serious permanent injuries. It ended in an epic way of save the world when one of the player characters, my main character, Vetcher, was trying to destroy the world, and that kind of was set up throughout the entire game. And you'll be able to watch that and see, was I successful or not. And it just gave a nice epic feeling to the game. I'm not sure if I recorded it. Hopefully I did. We had a little after game discussion about how we felt, and everybody seemed to be on board or on the same page, that it went really well, and was a good satisfactory ending to the game. And we even talked about what would happen if it would have went the other way, and people seem to think that that would have been fun as well. So you'll be able to watch that. We are replacing that with a game called Lancers, which is a mech game, a space opera type mech game. I want to say that the setting of the system is not what we're using. We kind of we had a whole session zero. We had 2 session zeros, in fact. We had a whole session zero, where we were discussing how the plot would work, how the setting was. And then in the second one, all of that went out the window and was completely changed. So we'll see how that goes. We made characters. I still have never played Lancers before. I have no idea how the system works, even after making a character. So we'll all be in a learning experience for that. I do not have the book. There is a really good online character generator that can hook up with the Foundry. So Bob is actually using the Foundry for that. So he is using the Forge. I host my own on my personal computer, but he's going through the Forge. But most of the players have been playing on Foundry through the GRPGA, which I use for Palladium, for over 2 years. So we're somewhat familiar with that. So moving from Roll20 to Foundry shouldn't be too difficult. So we'll just have to see how that Lancers game goes. So those are the 2. My every other Friday Torg Eternity game, we were going through Fires of Ra. We ended that a couple of sessions ago. Went really well. Was happy. I was also playtesting some changes and slight alterations to Torg Eternity for the Torg Eternity 1.5 rule set. Very pleased with the results, both of the campaign as a campaign of Torg Eternity, and the rule tweaks and changes and adjustments and stuff to make sure that it actually felt Torg. That is one of my main concerns, is anything that gets added under my stewardship of Torg Eternity, I do not want it to not feel like Torg. So if there's something that is a goal, such as streamlining or making things more clear and concise, If I achieve that goal, it's good. But if I achieve that goal and it doesn't have a Torg feel to it, then I would rather find something else or still use the old system. So while streamlining and making things quicker, and that is a goal, is something to aspire for, you don't want to lose Torgness to get there. So that's the juggling and balancing act that I have been going through. But we ended that, and we had actually started that because the game master who was doing our Earthdawn game got a little burnt out, and that's perfectly normal. Said, "Hey guys, I don't want to stop this campaign," and I was so happy because there are so many times in Earthdawn, which is another game that I really love, that we were starting to get where I felt the characters were almost to the point of, and I've talked about this before, the almost point of I got it, and then the campaign ends. And I was right at that cusp, maybe even achieved that in this Earthdawn 4th edition game, and then the game master has some burnout, which is, again, understandable, but I didn't want the game to end. So I said, let me do a Torg mega adventure. We'll go through that. It took a year of every other weeks, plus real life gets in the way, birthdays and family gatherings and holidays and such like that, especially during the summer months. And it took us a year to get through less than Fires of Ra. And when I say less, is the first 2 acts were done by a different group. And then I completely didn't see the necessity of Act 6. So I just didn't have it. And so we did Acts 3, 4, 5, and 7. And that took us a year of real time to do. Almost, it was within the same months of August. We stopped at the end of August of last year, 2022, with Earthdawn. I took over as game mastering Torg Eternity, and then we ended at the beginning of August of 2023. So we had 2 small sessions with Earthdawn, which are using alternate characters that are low level, basically so that we didn't just jump right back in after a year of absence with a lot of higher circle. We're around 5 and 6th circle, depending on the character, of talents and spells and stuff like, and abilities. So we're doing these. We'll do these for a couple of sessions, and then we'll switch back. And also, as I've stated many times on this channel, having alternate characters in a game can be very helpful for when everybody doesn't show up, and when a game master is like, I'm in a plot point that has these characters that are really important to it. I don't want to advance the sessions, the game with it. Having alternate characters doing alternate things, you can have less people, you can have different people. If your main person, who's the point of that plot line, can't show up, you can do something different within the same game, within the same world. And Anthony has done a really good job of linking the 2 groups together through little subplots that happen, subplots and plots that our main group has kind of discarded or kind of got to the end of that. They get brought up in this. So it links the 2, and it's really great. It's what I do in Palladium 1st edition, and I've done in Torg Eternity and original Torg, Classic Torg, for a very long time. It works really well, so I suggest it. But that's what we're doing in Earthdawn. I'm playing an Obsidian Sky Raider. Really cool. I'm basically the main combatant in the group. We also have a Windling Air Sailor. We have a human shaman, an elf scout, and 2 Tiskrang, who are broodmates, hatchling siblings, whatever that is called in Torg Eternity. One is an illusionist and one is a nethermancer, which is one of those things where you kind of try to come up with a concept that isn't very out there. That's why I came up with a Windling Weaponsmith and Obsidian Sky Raider. I had been thinking about a Tiskrang Nethermancer because the racial personality of the Tiskrang is very different than the disciplined mentality of a Nethermancer, and having that contrast or kind of breaking the common perceptions of a character to me is pretty cool. And then our one of our players, Lena, she was playing a Tiskrang Swordmaster, only did it one session, really didn't get a lot into the Swordmaster aspect of it. Played a game that Anthony was hosting at a local game shop, really fell in love with the Nethermancer discipline and switched out the Swordmaster with Nethermancer. With as a game master, I completely agree with. If you're only a few sessions in and a person hasn't gotten the character class or discipline, etc., doesn't quite hit them, they see something else, it's very easy to switch how that works. I've done it many times. I've asked for it myself a few times, so that is great. And we just had a really good a couple of sessions with that. So those are our secondary characters. So that's what's happening with Earthdawn. I'm also still doing my Wednesday streams with Torganized Play. We are getting towards the end of Revenge of the Caradon, which has been a pretty cool mega adventure for Torg Eternity. Is that I enjoy being a player because even though I guess in a lot of places in that you have the line developers and the authors and stuff being the game master, which is important for playtesting and stuff. Also for playtesting, I feel that as a player, I can see how other game masters do things. What confuses other game masters? What questions do they have? And I don't ever, and I try very hard. I don't go, hey, I'm the line developer, here's the rule. I see what their rule interpretation is. If I feel something is very strange, I might say, hey, officially, and it happens really rarely. All of those are posted on Roll Hit Die, both on Twitch and on YouTube, so you can look at it yourself and don't take my word for it. But very rarely do I say, oh, that's the official rule, or oh, this. It's more of a reminder or a, hey, Game Master, this is the official rule. You're kind of doing it different. I don't care in your game, do it as you want. I just want you to make sure if you know that you are making a house rule or a ruling that goes contrary to what the official rules are. So it's more of that. Very rarely do it. It's not like it's even at every game session or every other game session. It's more like 1 in 10 game sessions I might bring something up, unless I'm directly asked. Unless the game master directly asks me, then I'm perfectly fine with either saying it if I know it off the top of my head or quickly looking it up while the game master can deal with other things. So that is going really well. And then I also started another game because also, even though I am the line developer of Torg Eternity, experiencing other games out there from other companies and seeing how they do things can always inspire me on what would work good? What could I change or alter to fit into Torg really well? Or this is good, but it would not work in Torg Eternity. Also, I'm not even going to attempt at things like that. So another game that I have recently started, which is just every other Monday for a couple of hours, I do Sentinels Comics RPG, which is a superhero game, and it's a very different experience. The way the back and forth in some ways reminds me of Blades in the Dark. The initiative system is interesting in that it's kind of a Blades in the Dark versus Torg Eternity, where each person before or as they start their turn, they say who's going next, and it can be an ally or an opponent. And then it's one of those where you might get into the place where you start just listing off all of your teammates so you could all go first, but then the enemy gets to go and they can list all theirs, and when the next turn starts, their last person says who's the first person, and then they can go again. So do you have to think, do I want to have us all go and then maybe take a long time to get back to us? Or do we want to call everybody except for one of us, so we're the last person and we can start the new one? So there's that type of thing that gets involved with it. And also the fact that it took me a really long time to realize that character advancement, even though they have it as character advancement, in my opinion, is not actual advancement. It's tweaking. It's not a you get experience and you get to spend it. It is you get these hero points and you can convert them into one-time bonuses that you can use the next episode. But instead of advancing, you change your character. So a lot of randomness happens at the beginning, and you might choose something that you decided it sounded really good, or it sounded like it fit, or it was a random thing that you were kind of stuck with. You can swap those out. So it's something that it's more like you start off and then you start mini maxing, if that makes sense. So that is just a really interesting idea, that we're all new to it. We have four of us who are players, and Anthony is also the game master of that one, and it's a learning experience for us all. So it's more of a new school game, new school feel. Um, it's kind of fun. I've played Heroes on superhero games. I played Heroes Unlimited from Palladium. I've played Mutants and Mastermind Second Edition, which was the first D20-ish type system that I actually really got into and enjoyed. When I say got into, I mean enjoyed playing. And then now the Sentinels is very unique in the fact that you're not advancing your character, you're changing and kind of mini maxing as you go along. So that's interesting. So those are the games that I have been doing, and where my time has been going. And then the rest of that, even though it sounds like I'm doing a lot, those are every other week type things, except for the Torg streams on Wednesday. The rest of my time is trying to get that 1.5 core rule set hammered out and done, so we can have the threat book, we can have the realities books, we can have the game master and the player guides out there, mega adventure to go with it, some other products that we're looking at, also the myminifactory.com. The tribal adventures that we're doing are going for the Torg tribe is going through December. In 2024, we will be discontinuing it or putting it on hiatus, because one of the things I don't want to do is I don't want to have a bunch of these adventures written and ready and then have to convert them all over or tweak them into 1.5 rules, because as I found in the past on a lot of other waves, anytime you change things, there will be echoes of those rules in previous forms that you don't notice when you change it or get rid of stuff. That is why there are mega adventures that reference spells, psychic abilities, and miracles that don't exist, because at one time they did. They hit the cutting room floor and they weren't excised from the supplemental material, such as your mega adventures, your Adelphi Council missions, etc. So I didn't want to have to do any of that whatsoever. Myself and the person in charge of the miniatures had a talk, and it's a good time to switch over to other Ulysses Spieler products and focus on miniatures there. We will be dropping some miniatures every now and then for Torg, but without the adventures. But until December, so you still got September, October, November, December. You still got 4 months. Where if you want for $5 a month to get an adventure, to get 5 STL, to get about 8 STL files. Usually it's a 5-man squad, a big bad boss guy, a lieutenant, and a archetype. So 8 STL files to print off on your miniatures. We also give tokens for your VTTs based off of those miniatures for $5 a month. Have your chunk of Torg that you're able to continue between the Kickstarters and such. check out myminifactory.com. So having said all of that, once again, I'm Lee McCracken Jr., aka Zorval Chan, less than guru, and until next time, I will catch you later.